her at Alvin Junior College 37 years ago. We now live 1 mile from where we met. How about that? We're getting back to our roots. And since you said that, Jenny, I'll tell you, I saw her in the Student Union building. I was playing hearts, I know. And I looked over at her and I said, I'm going to stare at her. And she winked at me. True story. And I went back to playing hearts, you know. Act like I didn't see her, but she got up to leave. And I saw her all right. And I called her over to the table. I said, what's your name? She said, Brenda Smith. I said, oh, come on, what's your real name? Wrote her phone number. I said, Brenda Smith, how about a date Friday night? I was real shy, you know, back then. And she said, okay. And I said, what's your phone number? And I wrote it on a flip-top box from Marlboro from my friend Steve Upton. True story. And took her out one time, and she said I cracked so many corny jokes when she couldn't wait to get out of the car. She was never going to go out with me again. And she told her good friend Martha from Friendswood, when he calls me back for another date, I'm not going out with him again. There's just one problem. I knew that was her attitude. So Friday came and went, and I didn't call her. Just the nerve of that guy, he didn't call me back. And another Friday went by and I didn't call her. And the third Friday went by and I didn't call her. So guess what she did?
Nice.
Guess
You're not winning
At least among the women.
No, not Teresa. When Keith was 12 years old, he's now 31. When he found out, he goes, oops. And so here's what Brenda did. After 3 Fridays, she called me.
I called him. That was a weak moment.
What did you call?
And Keith said, way to go, Dad. You were being sneaky. But we've been married a long time, 3 kids, 4 kids. Brenda teaches 4th graders, 4 grandkids, I'm sorry. Brenda teaches 4th grade 25 years. So it's true she hangs out with 10-year-olds all day long. And she comes on the campaign trail with me in the evenings, which is kind of a step down, you know, from that. We're very happily married. We own an air conditioning company. It's driven the Missouri County, top half of Missouri County and Galveston County for 31 years. I've actually created jobs in both counties for 31 years. Brenda is from Beaumont area. She was born and raised in Nederland. Sandy says, yes.
That's where my daughter lives.
Oh, is that right? Okay. And so we've got long, wide, deep ties. When Ronald Reagan, to the district, when Ronald Reagan ran for re-election in '83, I told Brenda, I'm going to work for that guy. If you remember, if you think back with me, many of y'all won't remember this, you're too young, but when Reagan got elected, the Iran hostage crisis was going on. And Carter, try as he might, couldn't get them out, President Carter. But the day Reagan got sworn in, the Iranians released him because they knew he was not going to jack with them. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't going to put up with it. He would go in there and he'd take them by force. Told her I was going to work for Reagan, and so, is that you? Okay. And I got involved in the Republican Party, became a precinct chair election player. I've been working for solid Republican conservative ideals for that long, since 1983. Was elected to Pearland City Council for 6 years. Our state rep died in office, and people called and said, Randy, you need to run for this spot. Take your business sense, your solid conservative values to the state legislature. Then Ron Paul announced last July he was not going to run for re-election to his congressional seat. My phone started ringing. Randy, you need to run for this. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think, Jenny, leaving the state legislature and going to D.C. is like a demotion, isn't it?
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
We will see. So that's kind of my background. I actually have experience at this. The current administration, Barack Hussein Obama, is tearing down the fabric of our society. We are losing the country that we grew up in. We have fought for conservative battles in the Texas legislature. When I got elected to the House of Representatives, my very first term, I was the #1 conservative out of 150 representatives in the Texas House. So I don't just say that I'm conservative, I actually have the credentials to go with it. And if we don't turn this country around, if we don't repeal Obamacare, if we don't get the target off of Texas's back, where he has been busy trying to kill industry and energy, especially the energy industry and the drilling industry, if we don't become more energy dependent, if we don't get our jobs going again, We have nobody but us to blame. We've got to get out, we've got to work hard. I've been doing it in Republican circles for right at 30 years. And so my aim and my intent with y'all's help, and thank you for being here, is to take our conservative business values to Washington, D.C. and to get our country back on track. Almost $16 trillion worth of debt, really? It is time to cut up Congress's credit card. We need to take the Texas model to Washington where we balance a budget. We're very business friendly, less regulations, a very predictable regulatory climate, very energy friendly, no income tax, no state income tax, less government intrusion, and we need to take the Texas model to D.C. and get us back on track. Are y'all good with that? So thank you for being here. We can open it up. Where's Ben? Is he trying to find out who called your phone? We do have time for questions. And I do want to recognize my friend Barbara Meeks, our Galveston County Republican Party chairperson right here. She is up for re-election, and we'd like to see her come back. She's doing a fabulous job. We worked in Missouri County in the Republican Party, I said, starting back in '83, and we changed the entire county from almost 100% Democrat to 100% Republican. And so we know what it takes. We've been there. We've worked hard to do just that. And Barbara's doing a fabulous job in Galveston County. It's changing now. It's going to require work, but I think we're making that happen. Yes, ma'am.
Rany, it's important that everybody knows that Randy has been coming over here for 3.5 years or longer.
Actually, the first time was 2006 when DeLay resigned. I got involved.
All right, and he has been working with the Republican Party here in Galveston County to build the relationships between the two. We've got so much in common, the petrochemical, the ports, so hats off to you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that, Barbara. You make a good point. As a state rep, I currently represent Matagorda County in the top half of Missouri County, so I'm used to dealing with coastal counties and also those that are in the petrochemical complex, so to speak. Texas is the economic engine for our country. Let me just wax philosophical for a minute here, if I may. You know, when the world has a catastrophe, it doesn't matter whether it's a tsunami, an earthquake in Japan, whether it's a hurricane, whether it's fires, whether it's famine, whether it's floods, whatever the catastrophe is across the world, when they dial 911, who is it that answers?
Texas.
It is. It's the American military, and we have a lot of Texans in the military. When the world dials 911, the American military, our country, answers the other phone on the other end. Would you all agree with that? You know what I'm saying? And so we go around and we help people. There's no more giving people than Americans in the United States of America. For America, for the world to be safe and strong, America needs to be strong. We need a commander-in-chief, not a complainer-in-chief. We want a safe world. We need a strong America. And for America to be strong, Texas has to be strong. You guys are part of a state, of a complex, if you want to call it an industrial complex, a business complex, a society. We get it in Texas. We're about values and strength. Ronald Reagan had it right. Trust but verify. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm so proud to be part of a Texas that really is the backbone of America. So my hat's off to y'all. I applaud y'all for being part of the system that builds this great state, that builds this great nation. And now it's time that we get that kind of philosophy up in D.C. where we get our country back on track. That's my philosophical waxing for the day. I do have time for questions if there's any questions. Yes, sir. Come on, Jim.
The Ryan budget, which we know about.
Right.
But how do you feel about getting that passed without changing it, as written, without any amendments or anything like that?
Honestly, I have not looked at it. I've only heard about it. But I like the Texas model. We balance our budget here. We need to do it in D.C. I like to say, Jim, that I can fix Congress with 4 things. Number 1, every law Congress makes applies to them. As a Texas state, well, Randy says yes. As a Texas state legislator, as you know, we only meet every other year for 140 days. And do y'all know what they pay Texas legislators? $600 a month.
That's why I work.
Now, now there are those who will tell you we're overpaid. But we get it in Texas because, you know, we're only in session every other year for 140 days, which by the way means Texans are safe for about a year and a half. We can't jack with their lives. But we come back and we live under the laws that we pass, okay? That's the way it ought to be with Congress. Number two, you want to see the national deficit go away, tie congressional salaries to the deficit. By that I mean if the deficit doesn't go down 10% next year, your salary does. You want to see the deficit go away? Number three, Steve's here from Austin. He will recognize, many of you would know that the Texas Constitution has a germaneness clause in it. We don't get to put anything on a bill that's not germane to the subject matter of that bill. I.e., you don't get a $5 million hike and bike trail in your district attached to the military spending bill, the way they do in Congress. I mean, who's going to vote against military spending, right? So that if we had a germaneness clause, then we would take care of that. And really, fourth, we ought to have term limits in Congress, 8, 10, 12 years, and then come back, by golly, and live in the real world. Live under the laws you make. We do it in Texas. It's good enough for us. Why can't they do it in D.C.? That's kind of my tax, Jim, on fixing what's going on in Congress. I hear good things about the Ryan budget, but in all honesty, I haven't looked at it in its entirety. Any other questions? Man, I must have did a good job. Yes, sir.
I'll do another one.
Come on.
I had a discussion